Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 155 of The Rewind. Draq, I can't believe we've made it to episode 155. Unbelievable that we've been able to pack away so many episodes in so little time. We're crushing it. We're just absolutely crushing it. Oh, wait. No, this is episode 1 for us. I forgot. We're taking the reins over, people. Get excited. Draq, Dymlos, doing The Rewind. It's going to be funny. It's going to be great. It's just a new take on the same current model. We're not changing much from what old Therek had for us. So don't think like this is going to be a Pokemon show or anything like that when I go into Pokemon for the next 30 minutes. It's still a mostly Pantheon show, but we're putting our own little twist on it. It's our show. We're going to do what we want with it. So if I want to talk about Pokemon for 30 minutes, I promise I won't do that. I apologize. Not to turn anybody off. We're not talking about Pokemon for 30 minutes. Anyway, still two guys yapping about Pantheon and some of our favorite games that just have caught our interest this week. So let's see what we got going on this week, Draq. All right, now we're on to our week in gaming, our gaming weeks or whatever we decide to call this. This is going to be real short this week because we got a really long episode. So normally this would take up a little more time, but this week we are going to do it very rapid fire. So Draq, let's do this.
It's going to be super difficult because there's nothing we like more than talking about ourselves. So first of all, we have played a lot of Pantheon, but we're not going to talk about that because we're going to talk so much about Pantheon today. Also, EQ2, I've been doing a lot of the beta, and then we got Origins that's dropping this Wednesday.
Love me some EverQuest 2. I've been playing on Varsoon for the last year now. I've been raiding as a main tank paladin for a guild called Riders of the Storm, and I'm loving every second of it. It's been so fun. I can't wait to play Origins. I'm glad we're going to do some of this together, maybe get our prismatics. But yeah, reliving what we did in 2004 before I bailed on you when that Desert of Flames crappy release came out.
There's nothing I want more than a screenshot of you and me with our prismatics. We're going to make that thing happen.
I can't wait.
Also, in the last couple of weeks, we did a Fall Guys stream with the MMO 101, one of our last episodes. It was amazing. As far as group, like community stream games, community group games, Fall Guys is amazing. Also, I drug out Vanguard, played a little bit of that with Desrin. I like to just go play the emulator every once in a while and just see where that emulator's at. And it's really coming along. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you go check out the Vanguard emulator. And last but not least,
such a glutton for punishment.
I am a glutton for punishment. It's Vanguard got me before, and Vanguard's getting me again. Also, Monsters and Memories. They had a stress test, and then there's an upcoming weekend test coming up. So I've been really digging Monsters and Memories. It's super fun. How about you, Dymlos?
I'm sure it's going to be a good game, but I just can't bring myself to play it right now. I'm super nervous about it. I just feel like it's going to be EQ 1.5, and after just playing 3 years of EverQuest TLP, I'm a little burnt out from it. So I'm staying away from the stress tests. I'm staying away from the weekends. A lot of great devs. It looks good. A lot of great classes. I want to play some of those classes real bad, but I'm just a little burnt out from that classic EQ feel. So I'm going to try to stay away from that one. On my end, I am playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3. Our good friend Marks, who's with us a lot on the After Dark, and I have started a campaign. We're almost through Act 1, which is awesome. I'm playing a Dexterity Barbarian, which is one of my favorite weird builds to make. I know you're supposed to be all strength, but this one is all dex, and I'm using a rapier and a shield on my barbarian. It's a lot of fun. So we're getting through that. Sorry I'm late to the party, everybody, but I finally made it. Go Baldur's Gate 3. I'm also playing a lot of Pokemon. I promised Draq I would not turn this into a Pokemon show, even though I want to, but this has really gotten my interest in the last couple weeks. I watched the North American International Championships and watched some really great professional Pokemon players. These dudes make $15,000 for winning this competition, along with traveling. Like, the Pokemon company pays them all to travel to the different tournaments, and I want to do that. Draq, I'm going to become a professional Pokemon player. What do you think about that?
I think you should be the very best. Like no
one ever was. Yes. It's a difficult road. There's a lot of people to play that. There were over 1,000 people at that tournament of the championship, but that's one of the bigger ones. So, they've got a lot of local stuff that could be a little more up my alley right off the bat. And last but not least, I'm playing a lot of Fist of the North Star fitness boxing. Please, anyone that wants to join me on my fitness journey, I am trying to bust this out every day. It doesn't work that way, but 5 times out of the week, I'm trying to do a solid 45-minute of fitness boxing with one of my favorite animes, Fist of the North Star. It's time to lose some weight. We've been sitting in these chairs for too long, Draq. It's time to get up, do some exercise, and let our Switch do some work for us rather than, just eat a bunch of Cheetos and play Switch.
I think you've actually inspired me. I think I'm going to take a look at it. I've got a Switch that my kids use. I'm going to take a look at it. I may have to join you on this journey because you're absolutely
There
right.
are a ton of different ones. It doesn't have to be Fist of the North Star. There's the whole line of fitness boxing games. But
is there a Mike Tyson's Punch-Out fitness boxing?
No.
Dang
Mike
it.
Tyson is not a sellable character anymore unless it's him ranting on a crazy cartoon, which was actually really funny. The Mike Tyson's Mysteries was hilarious. But yeah, no, Mike Tyson is not someone who is very marketable. Let's just say that.
Welcome, Rewind Adventuring Party. Or not, because there's no one here. It's just me. That's because Therek suspended the old Patreon, and now we have a new one. The new one is at patreon.com/staticgrouplive. There's pledge levels, and we've increased the stuff that you get with the pledge levels. You'll still get your name, your class, your race announced on the Rewind every week. But in addition to that, you're also going to get Discord titles. And if you're an upper tier pledger, then there's even more stuff. I'll let you go to the Patreon and check it out. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Draq, you're just trying to amass a bunch of gold in the back room. You're just trying to hoard all the gold for yourself. I'm really not. There's tons of stuff that we can do with this money to further the cause of Pantheon and just make the channel better. Number one, we'd love to start giving away Pantheon pledges again. Almost all the Pantheon pledges come from the support of the Patreon members. Number two, there's just a little bit of upkeep that goes with Static Group Live. And I don't want to have to go to my wife for that. I don't want to have to take family money and make that happen. So your support to help us be able to do things like Adobe, Canva, the Discord, all that stuff. We've just got some advanced stuff that we just have to pay a premium level service to kind of keep it fun and cool. So thank you for helping us do that upkeep. And last but not least, there's some fun projects that I want to save up money to do. I've always wanted to go to some kind of con, get a table and set up and do Pantheon, right? There's some big ideas in the future that I want to do. But like everything else, it just takes money. And so if we can use the Patreon to gather some funds and make those type of things happen, then I think that's a great use of those types of fun. If you support us with the Patreon, that's fantastic. If you're not able to support us, that's totally fine. Just give us a like and a comment. That's really a lot of support as well. There's never an expectation that you need to financially support the Rewind or Static Group Live, but we appreciate it when you do. Thanks so much. Draq out.
This week in Visionary Realms News and Notes.
All right, well, I don't know if you guys know this, but Joppa has been streaming, and he's been streaming a lot.
A lot.
A lot.
A lot.
And
Every day.
Since the last Rewind, there's been so much information released that we can't even possibly get into it. But since we have the Ultimate Ranger with us today, I have...
King of the Rangers.
King of the Rangers,
Whoa.
the greatest
I don't know about
Ranger
that.
that ever was. Basically Aragorn in the flesh.
Oh, man.
Wow.
I
That's
didn't-
high praise.
I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up for this level of putting me on a pedestal, please.
But since we have Therek, I have painstakingly went through 15 hours of Joppa streaming and extracted what I think is the most interesting stuff. So what I'm going to do
I wish
here...
I could get paid for 15 hours of streaming in my real job. Wouldn't that be great? Hey, job, I'm just going to take 15 hours of my job to go stream and promote our, what I'm doing to make it look like I'm working. I don't know. I just wish I had that kind of flexibility in my job.
It does seem kind of amazing. All right.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt, Draq.
No, you're fine. Interrupt all day. All right. So here we
I
go.
will.
We're calling this section Joppa Says, because when Joppa says it, it's basically, gold, right? Isn't that how that works?
I don't know about
I don't
that.
think so.
I mean,
that's
what's the value of gold these days? Yeah, Crickets is right, because I think you're going to get some pushback on that. Drop,
all right,
honestly.
well, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So number one, Joppa isn't showing all the skills. He wants to leave some stuff on the bone, right? He wants to leave some stuff for us to experience, for Rangers and for Summoners as we hit the launch date. And the launch date, for those of you who don't know, the next /season/ pumpkin
slash whatever we're calling
period / chapter verse. I don't even know. I'm so confused about where we're at with that right now. That is coming up this Saturday. And that will actually air right after we get done with this rewind, because we are moving the rewind to Saturday at noon. That is the new.
You're welcome, people.
That's the new rewind time.
No more Sunday congregations. No more Sunday. What is it like? Before or after church for some people. Some people it's like the Sunday brunch. Like.
Oh, you mean the Pantheon cult? No,
Yeah.
Therek, we're not doing that.
Well, good luck as cult leaders then, if you're not going to embrace the cult. I mean, that is part of the job.
Fair.
That is part of the job. Well,
and who's to say we can't worship on Saturday, right? Like that's
and
I'm not
the great Pantheon gods.
I agree with that.
It's mostly due to the fact that I work on Sundays, and so I want to be there in the chat. I want to continue the tradition of being in there in the chat as much as possible.
The premiere is still a very vital role to the rewind, and
yes.
we want to stay true to that.
Yes,
that's awesome. So,
with that being said, premiere this Saturday. Also, the next season starts this Saturday, and
it's exciting. Onward and upward.
Rangers. This is just information I'm pulling from Jopper's stream. I'm just going to go through a few, and then you guys can comment. Okay. Rangers can do a wield.
As they should.
They also use bows, but Rangers are the only ones that can use longbows. The longbows are specific to Rangers only. They do more damage, and they have a longer range. Warriors and Rogues can also use bows, but they only get to use the short bow.
I'm good with this completely. Maybe not so much on the Ranger side of things, but of course, Rogues, that's a very rogue thing. They cannot use longbows unless they're elves, right? Like that's a thing. So I'm all for this. The thing I do before we go on, I want to dive into this thing, like this whole being able to change in and out of bows and combat and all this stuff. Joppa's been talking about this and like switching out. I think at one point he even said switching out gear. I'm totally fine with this whole switching out for melee weapons and ranged weapons, but if he's really thinking that we're going to switch into a certain gear halfway through, then why do we even have, minimum bars, right? Like, why do I have 8 things that I can do if the Ranger can do 10 things because they've got stuff that no one else can do? It just doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it seems like that does seem like a little bit of a imbalance, maybe with the other classes. I don't know too. I haven't, like I said, I haven't been really following as much, but I like the Ranger being the master of the bow. It's always been something they've talked about, and the versatility between melee and ranged has always been that's part of their class kit, an essential part, I think. So.
And a necessity too. I think it's very cool. Like that can be a part of the game, but it needs to not fit outside of that action bar.
Yeah.
So just to let you guys know, when Joppa's talking about swapping armor and swapping weapons, that's for every class. That's not just for Rangers.
Oh, I see. Okay. I'm curious.
But in combat?
Yep.
Yeah, there was a short. Didn't they release a short that was like basically this little piece of information? I think I saw it. Yeah, but it's not new. They've actually talked about that that's always kind of been the plan, I think, is they wanted to do something like that. So that doesn't really surprise me that much. What does surprise me is the warrior being able to use a short bow. What if you picked up a warrior in your group and they're like, I'm gonna stand at range and use my bow, and you'd be like, what? Are you really? That seems a little surprising to me, but you know.
It, and that's why they should have access to the longbows too. Like if there's already you've got a paladin in the group, the warrior should absolutely be able to flip over to DPS and knock out a longbow and shoot from there. They're the master of all weapons, right? They should absolutely have a longbow. So that's a little surprising to me as far as that goes.
So Joppa did actually cover that a little bit. He said that the warrior is the master of all weapons, but the ranger is the only one that can use the longbow because they're the one that's the master of, quote, ranged weapons. And so even though the warrior is the master of all weapons, they don't get to use it.
And give them a heavy crossbow or something,
There is going to be a crossbow. We will get to that.
Yeah, that seems like a more warrior thing. But has he shown the ranged melee, like the ranged combat on stream? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. How does it look?
So they have bows in. They have the ranger. He knocks the arrow. He just got the arrows in that are firing. Right, so you can see the arrow when he pulls it back, and also you see it when it fires. The string on the bow doesn't come back yet, though. They're still working on that animation, but so it looks a little weird. But you can see over the course of the last 2 weeks that it's coming along quickly, right? So I have no doubt that they're going to be close to having that all figured out by the time they do launch.
Well, we've got those tools in place that make everything so fast, right?
Tools.
You say I have no doubt. I'm like, man, right. I have a little doubt.
Some doubt.
I have a little doubt. But hold out hope. It seems like, has Joppa's streaming, has his streams been playing the game or been more developmental stuff? Like I've heard mixed things. I've heard some people say, he was showing he was doing development on stream, much akin to Monsters and Memories, and what was, I think, probably inspired him to do what he's doing. Or is it more playing the game, with some stuff that just nobody has access to?
He's definitely playing in builds that we don't have yet, but also in terms of like he's playing, but he's not grabbing a group and going and killing stuff. He's definitely testing things, and like he's even changing things on the fly as he's streaming, right? He'll adjust some things or try to figure out some things, and even to begin the stream, sometimes he'll say, "Oh, what? One of the programmers put something in. I want to test that," and then he'll see it and see if it actually works. So it's I would say it's definitely more of a testing than really a playing, because he doesn't. It's not like he gets levels. He sets his level to where he wants it. He warps around. He's definitely looking to fix whatever he's looking at.
Right. Okay, interesting.
And the chatters are really excited about him showing the tools, his huge Joppa tools that he's using. So it's good.
His huge Joppa tools.
One of the testers.
That's why I'm not watching the stream. That's why I don't want to see Joppa's Joppa tools.
It was funny because one of the testers got upset and said that he shouldn't be able to use the admin tools to warp around and do stuff unless they could use them, and everybody was like, "But he's a developer." It was kind of funny.
Pretty sure he's okay to do that. Yeah.
Some of those chatters, I swear, it just why are you typing? Just stop. Just stop typing altogether, please.
All right, moving on. Rangers are not going to use mana. They're going to use momentum. This will be the ranger resource. It goes from 0 to 100. You start at 0, but as you do damage and use abilities, it generates quickly, but it also decays quickly. So when you use
very similar to what the paladin does.
Yes. As you gain momentum, though, you get attack haste, you get movement speed, and you get bonuses to damage. At 25%, you get 2% in all of those. At 50%, you get 5% of all those. And over 75%, you get 10% in all of those.
It's interesting. That's and that's always kind of the way that I've envisioned the way that they've talked about. While you were talking, Draq, I actually pulled up the class page on the Pantheon MMO website, just to sort of refresh my memory on some of the abilities and whatnot. And then these are all pretty dated now, but so they've probably changed. But it does seem like it's consistent with the vision they've always had. You just constant activity. It's a very it's not sitting there shooting your bow just mindlessly. So it's not like a wizard where you just sit at the back and launch fireballs all day and do nothing else.
There and go AFK.
Whoa!
It requires an engagement that maybe you're not comfortable with. I don't know, but yeah, no, it does sound interesting, and I like that it decays quickly. That's a cool thing because that puts it on you to keep it up where it needs to be and keep yourself at maximum output, right? So you have to stay active and prevent that decay as much as possible. I like that. I do like that.
It's really good for the paladin too. So like if we're talking about hybrids in general, rangers, paladins, I think Shadow Knights as well, Dire Lords as well. But it feels good. It feels flow, and once they get people testing it and feeling that out, when the paladin first came out, it was a little broken, then it got really OP for a while, and now it's kind of in a place where it's working out. So I feel the Ranger's probably going to happen in the same aspect, where there's going to be stuff that they're going to need some way to build the resource pretty quickly, and we'll see if they've got that flashed out. If they just like put almost a carbon copy of the skills that the paladin has, just make them in the sort of the Ranger type-esque sort of feel, where you've got this thing is how you get your momentum. This is how you spend your momentum. It does, obviously it doesn't have to be a carbon copy, right? Like I'm not saying just take the paladin over. It needs to have its own thing and its own feel, but like here's the steps on how to make a hybrid feel good. So hopefully they'll kind of learn from their lesson on that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I tend to agree too. I think it's a great idea for a class. I think it's going to feel unique, and having a ranger hopping around and remember, it's the movement speed too, right? So that's going to be fun to like, okay, so I do a bunch of damage and I get a bunch of movement speed, and then I move over to the side and I can use my ranger traps to snare stuff and do that type of thing too. I think that's going to be a really cool play mechanic.
Here's the sad thing, though, and this is why, Therek, you need to come back in as soon as possible to test the Ranger so it gets fleshed out properly. The same thing's going to happen to like all of the people that play Rogue out there. There's so many Rogues out there that don't use the trap, that don't use half their skills. We only get so many skills, and you're not using half of them. I just want to go up and DPS. I just want to stab, backstab, and that's it. I don't want to do anything else. No. That's not how this works. So I'm very interested to see, how a quality Ranger can use all of their skills, not just auto attack.
I love that you said that, and I couldn't agree more. Like up to now, I've played a Rogue ever since they went into regular availability of the game. I've been playing a Rogue exclusively, and you're right. I mean, I'm like, what are all these skills? And I don't see anybody else putting down traps. When you got a camp laid out and trying out the different stuff, and I'm constantly trying to be moved, in the correct position. I'm trying to position myself at the side so I get the extra opportunity when I use one of my skills. I can't remember what it's called, but the one that gives you opportunity when you hit from the side. So you're always moving around. And like when we play as a group, when I've played, we've had Stands in the Fire being our tank, and he's so good at positioning the mobs, right? And getting them so that everybody's got the back facing them, and he's the only one in front of them. So it really makes my job easy, but sometimes it just, a little movement and then using your skills, setting the traps down, like you say. If you've been playing Rogue, it'll be a good transition, it sounds like, to Ranger, which is probably a good thing, because I feel like a lot of people who are Rangers have been playing Rogues.
For sure.
It's a very
caltrops. Have you ever seen anyone outside of yourself use caltrops?
No.
Mr. C is the only
Mr.
Rogue.
C uses them. I've seen him use them. I can vouch for Mr. C.
That's it. End of list.
The one caveat I'll say is they don't work. Sometimes they don't work so great. It's not the best skill in the world.
Sure. It does need to be fleshed out a little bit.
Yeah, unless they've patched it out. Like basically, they really slow the mob down, and they don't stop it for sure. They slow it down a little bit. The enchanter has a better snare than the rogue does right now. So
here's the
there
funny
is
thing:
that.
the NPCs are better caltrop droppers than the humans. They do it on top of each other. So like if you bring two, and this is a bug, they said that it's going to be fixed at some point. But if two of them dropped caltrops at the same time, you're rooted. There's no moving. It's hilarious.
I don't think I've ever had that happen to me. That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a Hangor thing that happens
Yeah,
a lot in Hangor.
That explains it.
We got to get you up there soon.
Oh my gosh, probably not. I don't think I have the lifetime to dedicate to get to Hangor.
All right, we still got a lot of stuff to cover. We're just at the beginning of this list, so we got to keep moving.
I told you it was going to take all 2 hours.
Oh my god, it's going to be the longest rewind ever.
Dymlos has a raid to get to, man. We got to mow.
I know. We got to go.
All right. I'm just going to blow through a few more here. So we have the Veilguard Stride. This is a 10% innate increased movement speed for outside only. This does not have to be on your bar. This just lives in your skill book, and then you just get it. So you just move 10% faster than everybody else. We also have a Hawk Scout. So you summon a hawk, and then it's kind of like the magician spell in EQ1 with the eye of Zom, where you become the hawk, and then you are able to move it around, and then you see what the hawk sees, right? But not to fear, not to fear. We also have a ferret scout, which summons a ferret. That's for the indoors, so you can use the ferret indoors or outdoors, and the hawk is only outdoors. Now, Dymlos is a doubter, but Joppa, in his last stream, he did show the quote ferret scout and it working inside the goblin dungeon. The ferret was a rat, to be fair.
No, that's okay. I'm okay with that.
We'll get there.
Not a ferret, but he said the it's coming. But he cast the spell and he ran around as a ferret and nothing angered him. He ran right up to mobs. So it looked pretty cool to me, and I thought it was pretty cool. So what do you guys think about those things?
You know what? You answered my question, because my question was, yes, this sounds great. I've seen this skill on the webpage forever, and I'm like, have you seen it work? And if you say you've seen it working, I'm impressed. Yeah, you would be pretty valuable in a group if you could scout ahead. It's like invisibility basically, but a guaranteed invisible that nothing sees through, because nothing's going to attack your pet or your whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it would be great to have in a dungeon, and would make the ranger class really valuable if it works properly. So I'm impressed.
Being able to put something in the room to scout out how many potential mobs are going to come with your pole is absolutely valuable.
Did you guys use Eye of Zom and EQ much? I mean, you guys are more EQ heads than I am or ever was. But did you use that spell a lot back in the day?
Didn't play much wizard, but it really...
Mage.
After a while, no one really cared. Wait,
Mage, what? Wizard.
Wasn't
Aren't
wizard,
they the
it was
same?
mage.
Cut that. Just clip that out.
No, leave that in. That's good stuff.
No, I and even when I played the mage, I never used it. Mostly because by the time I knew how useful it was already past the period of time where I didn't know where anything was. Like, by the time I figured out how truly useful that would have been, everybody knew where everything was in EverQuest. So
I didn't have the gold to pay for it.
That's
I barely had a non-magical dagger and a tattered robe.
I thought you and Draq had been friends forever, and you didn't have gold to pay for something. Was it because he was hoarding all the gold and he wasn't sharing? What's going on?
No, because if you remember in the way back when, you had to buy those really crappy, combine weapons that were quote unquote magical. But that was the only tag, and they were like 300 gold or platinum. Had to have been platinum. They were stupid expensive for just a magical weapon. It wasn't any better than a normal dagger or sword that you bought. Do you remember, Draq? It was called Combine, right? Combine dagger.
The Combine weapons.
You had to buy them from the gypsies. It was
Oh
terrible.
yeah, I do remember those.
Yeah, in Corona.
Yeah, the gypsies triggered my memory. You're right. Now I remember what you're talking about now.
Yeah, so no, we had to save up for those weapons so we could kill wisps on Wisp Island and try to get those glowing light stones for people.
Wow. So Eye of Zom was just it wasn't feasible. That's not to say it wasn't useful.
Not on the list.
It wasn't feasible. Gotcha.
And that being said, I played a bard early on, and I think Draq was a cleric, right? Like we didn't even have
Yeah,
the
we
spell
didn't we
early
didn't
on.
even roll with the mage anyway.
Right. Well, hopefully you don't need anything to get the ferret and the veilhawk out, but it would be useful. It'll be a useful feature of the class.
Yeah, I definitely like these tools a lot, especially the Hawk Outdoors. Unless Joppa decides to do that squishing like he showed that one time, which let's hope he doesn't, because then that takes out a lot of the climbing aspect and then really reduces this Hawk's ability, right? Like to be able to just fly
Huge.
up to the graveyard and see what's up there is incredible, especially if you're going to be someone who does mining or
Yeah.
harvesting of any kind. To be able to just quickly scout that stuff out, Ranger's going to be the best harvesters in the game by far.
You're right. I hadn't even thought of that. Totally. Very useful.
The first thing that Dymlos thinks about is how to
make money as a
hawk.
ranger. Damn right.
He's flying into 3 zones that we're not supposed to go in yet. He's like down in Wild Zen with the hawk. He's like, all of in some other continent. Who knows where he's going with that hawk.
All right.
I love it.
We're keeping this train rolling. The next couple of things. Ranger bow damage will be split 50-50 between the bow itself and then the arrow damage. Now, the arrow, you're going to be able to fire an arrow that you don't have to have actually in your inventory, so there'll be like a default arrow. And then you'll also be able to craft and or get arrows that do more damage. Now,
really?
Bless you, Joppa, for your quality of life.
yes. Also, I just want to throw this one other thing in before we comment on this. Rangers have to plant their feet to shoot currently, so you have to stop before your bow will go off. You have certain skills that you can fire on the move, and Joppa said possibly in the future he wants Rangers to be able to move and shoot, but while they're moving and shooting, they will do less damage, and that will be the trade-off. He says that currently Rangers just being able to move and shoot at the same time would just be too broken for an MMO, and they'd just be able to kite stuff too easily.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, given what we talked about already with the momentum and how momentum works, I kind of get that. It would be very powerful to get all that momentum built up and all those stat increases that are being fueled by the momentum and being allowed to basically shoot at will while you're doing this. So, I mean, what he's trying to, I think, do is create like a rhythm to the Ranger where you're in close fighting melee, you back up, but you have to back up and stop and then start shooting, and I kind of get it. I'm interested in the split between the bow and the arrow damage. So that's new. So you're going to have like a bow that has a damage stat on it, and then you'll have an arrow in your inventory which has some sort of damage number on it.
Modifier or something.
Right. So it's going to take half of each and combine them, and that's your damage, I guess. Is that the idea?
Which is kind of what EQ did. Like they had damage on the bow, and you also had separate arrows that had different types of damages on it. So like you could have a darkness arrow, a fire arrow, ice arrow, and they would do different damages and hit different resists for what the mob is, right?
Right. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. That's cool. And they said before, I know that it sounds like it hasn't changed that. You can find there's arrows you can find in the world, and you just put one in your ammo slot, and that's it. That's all you need, right? Because that's what they've talked about before, is not having a need to constantly supply yourself with arrows.
The infinite quiver.
Infinite quiver.
I'm not sure about that.
It sounds like they're changed a little bit because he's talking about crafting there.
Yeah, he said crafting. Now that kind of implies that the better arrows would maybe have, be an actual number, but I didn't get that. Maybe I missed it.
We need that money sink.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe you craft one and then it's like a piece of armor and it just goes into the thing. I don't know. I don't even know if they know yet how that's going to work.
Yeah.
To be determined.
TBD.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I do feel like here's your standard arrow, you get as many of those as you want, but if you want to shoot a fire arrow, you absolutely are going to have to craft it and imbue it with fire yourself. I think that's absolutely a doable thing.
Yeah, and I didn't even write this down because I just got the amount of information was crazy. But he did talk about the ability to light a fire arrow and click it on a wall or shoot it into a wall, and then the wall would be lit. but that's like
Mm.
way down the road, so that's why I didn't even put that in. But yeah, you mentioned the fire arrow. So.
Yeah, that goes back a long time. He's talked about like lighting torches from a distance with an arrow. It's like, I don't know. Did he talk about the first person? Do you have this in the notes somewhere about like this first person aiming mechanic that's been around forever?
Yes, there's been no mention of that whatsoever, and there's
Hooray!
no footage of it anywhere or anything. I mean, I can't say that it's dead. If you're asking me, I would guess that it's dead.
I've suspected it would die on the cutting room floor a long time ago, but maybe.
Now, hear me out. This mechanic can work. There was a game that Draq hates that he played with his brother for a long time. It's called Eternal Sonata. And although it's not like a ranger-based thing, there was one female character in that game that did use a bow, and she actually had a move called Heal Arrow, but she could also just straight up grab her bow. And honestly, this was the best damage in the game. If you got really good at it and you got good at arcing headshots into them, because it kind of shot on a curve, it did the best damage in the game. And I could see if that's something that they want to put in. I mean, this is not new technology. It could absolutely be done, but certainly you couldn't do it on the move or anything like that. You know, she was just stood there on the field and brought the bow and arrow up and started shooting for her time, and then it was done. So
yeah,
cool concept, can be done, but very difficult, and should be very difficult. It should only be for the finest, most luxurious of rangers.
The finest, most luxurious of rangers. That's gonna go underneath my name on the nameplate. That's a title
It's
that
all
you can
yours.
get in game. Sweet.
You just said
Yeah.
Rangers do the most damage in the game, so I'm automatically out on that skill already.
Oh, no wonder.
Yeah, my question has never been about how cool it would be. My question has been about their capability of actually implementing it.
The ability to implement this in what's already a jam-packed class and testing sessions, I think is high. I would
be
put that on
cool
the
if-
very questionable.
Sure. It'd be cool if like that kind of damage pulled aggro from the tank really quickly, so that then you had to move into your melee stuff, let the tank pull it off you, and then step back and take another shot or so.
Sure.
Speaking of
Free ideas, Joppa. Enjoy.
Speaking of which, he also got the your weapons auto switch when mobs move into melee range. So
Really?
Yeah,
Very
that's-
nice.
Interesting. Your weapons auto switch when the mob moves into melee range.
yeah, so if you're bowing a snake or whatever, and then the snake moves within melee range of you, and you can't use your bow anymore, you'll switch to the swords or whatever.
I am
seems
okay
like-
with this,
Yeah,
even if it's cheesy.
It's
It's more quality of life than anything.
To me, it just seems like it would be annoying because, like, what if the mob moves into melee range and you just want to move right out again? So you have to switch it back yourself then at that point because it's switched and now you got to switch it back. I don't know. I feel like takes some control out of the player's hands. I don't know if I'd like that. Maybe a quality
That's why
of
we
life.
need you testing, Therek.
Yeah, I know.
All right, enough bow talk. So let's move on to some more skills. We have Fray. This one is a chance at a second attack. It's a melee skill, so you get a chance at a second attack that does more damage if you hit the first attack. We have Ferocious Assault, melee. This is 3 attacks. If any of the 3 attacks hits, you land an interrupt.
That's very good. Interrupts
Yes.
are good.
Engage.
Desperately need them.
Yep.
Engage. This is a leap to the enemy. So you hit it's like a warrior charge in WoW, right? You jump to the enemy or leap to the enemy or whatever.
Love this skill.
Right. So you can go. That allows you to close the
Feeling
distance.
the ranger. Maybe you have to. Maybe we'll just have 100 rangers in the guild. Oh wait, we already do.
Yeah, we already do, definitely. Was withdraw part of that? Because the engage was sort of a partner skill of withdraw, right? And if you look on the website, there's the engage is listed, and then withdraw is right below it, where you kick off an enemy. It's basically a backwards.
Yes.
And
actually, now
offer.
that I think about it, he showed withdraw on the stream, but I don't know that he ever mentioned it by name because I saw him leap back, but I don't know. Maybe I just missed it. I don't know. There was so many hours of him streaming. I might have missed some stuff.
Fair enough.
No one expects you to be there for all 15 hours. You can make a sandwich or two while he's streaming.
I was there 15 hours. Don't take that away from me, Dymlos.
My fault. Draq, you are such an attentive human being. You're very aware of what's going on around you, especially in game. Certainly, you never back into creatures or nothing attacks you. Please watch the stream.
No,
See the truth.
Never died in midair while floating down to the ground. Like I saw that happen a couple times.
I'm glad you both finally recognize my greatness. Okay, moving on. Moving on. We have the hamstring trap. He showed a lot of this. So
finally a snare.
You throw the trap on the ground. It's for one mob. It's not, he specifically said the rogues get the cow traps. They get to do multiple ones, but this one is for one mob. But it doesn't break on damage. So you can you can kite the crap out of whatever you snare with this thing.
So you just snare it and shoot it.
Yep.
Nice. Easy peasy.
Rangers
not broken at all.
Not broken at all. He said specifically Rangers get light healing. And they're going to do that through the forage system. So Rangers are able to forage stuff, and then they use the stuff they forage to make saps and balms. So that, like,
love this.
Like kind of like the rogue poison, where they either create little bottles or little stuff that they put on their weapons. So one thing is the bright fire that he mentioned was bright fire sap. So that basically coats your melee weapons with a glow. So like now, instead of having to hold a torch in your second hand, you can use the bright fire sap, and then you'll have a weak light source. He said it wasn't going to be as good as torch. So of course, torch wizard's still a thing. Also, just a health regeneration balm called the Moonrose Balm. You put that on, you get +1 health regeneration. It's a no drop, and it's ranger only, so only the ranger can use it for himself.
More platinum sinks.
Yeah. Man, that forage key in EQ got a lot of work back in the day. I was constantly foraging to try and find stuff, and like 10% of it was useful. Maybe if that is right. This sounds like it might
not
be
until your epic did it mean anything, right?
Yeah, and then what did you have to get for your epic? You had to forage something for it. I don't remember what it was.
You had to go to 4 different zones and get like a Everfrost Tundra
Rose,
and the rose
like
in Veronavi.
Right.
But then finally, I don't know, 5 expansions later, they made a raid mechanic where the Rangers had to forge stuff up, and Druids could do it too, but Rangers were the best at it because they had AAs built into it to make them really good at it. But yeah, you had to like find a water and a mixture and make a poison resist, so that when this mob came in, finally you would hand off that stuff to like your healers and your main damage dealers, so that when they got blasted with this poison, they could drink the potion that you made on hand and cure themselves of it, so they could go on their way. Right? It was wonderful.
Well, that sounds useful. I mean, it sounds like Joppa's really into the EQ Ranger. I mean, and I know you're about to talk about something else, Draq, very similar to the EQ Ranger.
We're about to drop the big one right now.
Yeah, this is the big one here. Yeah, go for it.
All right, so tracking, and Joppa just basically came out and said, look, we basically just ripped off EQ Ranger tracking straight up.
Why reinvent the wheel?
I love EQ Ranger tracking.
It's the best.
Yeah, I don't see why you'd change it. It's good.
If you're looking at the screen, that's a screenshot of the Ranger tracking as it is currently, and that is basically EQ tracking, right? You have your cons, you have your directions. It's going to tell you which way it is. Joppa did say that the Ranger tracking isn't going to, like, it's not for like pinpoint accuracy, but it gets you in the general area, and then you kind of have to like find it once you're in the area.
I'm so glad that tracking made it in. There was a time when I think that they were sort of not sure if they're going to get tracking in, but I'm glad to see it. They have something. It looks like, it's legit, and it's in, and it's real, and it works, and it's great.
Can I track those harvest nodes though?
But you can track other players. Apparently, track players on in the little graphic you got here. It looks like you can track
absolutely
your friends. So maybe Draq, if you ever just need some help, just be a ranger, and you can find us. You won't get lost so easily. And
I'm
It's all
not going
good.
to be a ranger. No.
I'm not even.
I group with the ranger so they can find me and then get me back to the group.
He
That's what I was
would
gonna
get
say.
lost with tracking. Let's just be honest.
That's what I was gonna say. Drax, like the Rangers find me. I don't find the Rangers. So- oh boy.
And this is back to a point that we made earlier about using all your skills. You know, I just recently gave up rating on EQ as a ranger, and so I played a ranger for almost 3 years, and I only like learned maybe after the first year of playing that you can sort in different ways. So like make sure when you are messing with this that you mess with all the ways that you can sort your tracking, because some of it is like, okay, here's the newest mob that's been spawned. So like if you're trying to watch something go on, and that's, you know, how you find Quillmane, right? Like you see you kill the right mob, you know it's the right mob, and then you wait on your track and wait for the next thing to pop up, and that is the placeholder for Quillmane, right? So
right.
things like that. Make sure you're using your tools as best as you possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm really glad to see this. This makes me happy. The Ranger tracking makes me happy for sure.
All right. So that's kind of all the most important things. There was tons of other stuff, but that's what I consider to be the most important things from the Drop a Ranger streams. So how do you feel about the Ranger, like with kind of knowing all that basic information? What do you think? Is it headed in a good place for you? Do you like it? Are you excited for it?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, this is pretty much what's on the website. I mean, so I've been using that as a template for my expectations for a long time, and I like it. It is what they've said it is. So as long as it works properly and it, you know, they support it and they continue to, you know, because these abilities are all good, but if they have no real application in game, or if they're superseded by some other ability, or they don't sort of work with the other classes, and that's really that's the secret of Pantheon's overall design that, you know, we've talked about ad infinitum, right? Just how these all have to work together and they all have to make the value is dependent on other things in the game. So if there's no situations where you would need to, for say, you know, summon those wolves to help you burst your run speed, if there's something that does it better, nobody's going to do it, right? Like
that better be in your number 1 slot, Therek.
Well,
Back
I
in
mean,
them wolves, Therek.
if it makes me, if I can bring friends because of it, then yes, it's serving a purpose. If Dymlos likes me because I have this ability, it's serving a purpose. But otherwise, yeah, I
To
mean, it's
make
just
friends.
right. I just want to seem cool, right? So, yeah,
You're
no,
already there, buddy.
oh man, I got to get in and play the Ranger before I get my cool card back. But yeah, no, this seems cool, and I do like the direction they're going. I just you know, I want to see it in game, I want to see it working, and yeah, how it fits.
When you say that, it makes me think about is the wind feather, the 5 feather spell. Like currently, like that is the number one way to get around everywhere. Is
Perfect example.
5 feathers, right? Why would I want
Perfect.
a run speed buff from a
Right.
ranger when I could just float to the next thing, right? Like
Right.
they have to tamper that thing down, and I'm sure they will. So
It's exactly what I'm talking about. It's exactly nailed it. So yeah.
It's such a nice skill to have, though.
oh, it's gonna be so awful when they wipe and we don't have it anymore. I'm so used to
I mean,
just
we're going
using
instantly to that griffin and camping it again.
Well, I mean, and it goes to what Joppa, he said it on his stream recently. The one clip he's railing against flying mounts, and it's like, you're aware that this thing's in the game, right? Where people are just flying around, basically. You know, I know it's not a flying mount, but it's a pretty damn good way to just skip over content. I mean, you're getting from point A to point B without fighting the enemies on the ground. So how's that different?
Everybody's currently skipping to the end of Hangors right now.
Is that what's happening, right?
Oh yeah, because you just climb up on the cliff ledge. You walk where there are no mobs. You get to the ledge nearest the High Chief tent at the end, and you just float down.
Oh my god, didn't even know that.
A little broken.
That's crazy.
Funny story. My first day in Pantheon, when it was Nathan and myself and Marks, and we were like in this group, the devs kind of, and now that we have free reign to talk about this, I can talk about this. The devs took us to that other kind of, you know, the tower. There's like 2 towers outside of Throne Fast, and one we can get to. One is the the wizard and enchanter start, and the other one is something blocked off over by the manor.
Right.
And he took us there because we wanted to see it. So they warped us over there, and Joppa joined us there for like 2 minutes. It was awesome. And he showed us that 5 feathers. And what we originally thought it was the gliding that he wanted to put in, like from Breath of the Wild, right? Like, so we thought we got to see the first stages of what gliding was going to look like. Turns out it was just the 5 feather spell, but hopefully gliding still makes it in.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the plan. I think that's what they're trying to get to.
Yeah.
I hope so.
It's
gliding would be so excellent.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, Ranger done. Stamp it. Boom. So some other big changes that they're making. So Joppa is doing some, with the other devs, is doing some testing / adjusting of Madrun and how doable it is for a single group. One of the big complaints, and we've had this big complaint, right, is that Madrun with one group, which is what it's designed for, apparently, or that's what they've said, is
quote unquote,
is really, really, really difficult. Just because the amount of little spiders that spawn and for how hard everything hits, it's really hard to do with a single group at level. You either have to A, bring 2 or 3 groups, or B, you have to out level the heck out of it. So you have to be like when everything's green or gray, right? That's the easiest way to do it. It's when everything's gray and you just walk past stuff. So I think this is an excellent change.
I feel like we're on a slippery slope here, though. Like, I do feel like Madrun needs to be difficult, but you're right. If we can't even break in, like, you should have a little bit to get in and then maybe some difficult rooms along the way. But when, you glide right in or you go into the first hallway or cave and you're instantly wiped before you even get in, like, this is, no one's ever going to go there until all the mobs are green to get the stuff. Like, it's just not going to be worth the death penalty.
Here's the thing. So I haven't even been to Hangor. And the reason I haven't been to Hangor is because of the number of hours it takes to get to level 20 or 22 or whatever it is. Like you're saying, you have to be over leveled to even have a reasonable chance at it. Hangor, like in my mind, Hangor doesn't fit in the game right now. It's not, at least in its current form, it doesn't fit in the kind of game that Pantheon is right now. There's nothing else that, there's nowhere else to sort of build up. There's no real exciting way to get yourself to the point of readiness for Hangor. Like I don't understand what putting a place like Hangor in right now without the supporting ranges of leveling options is, and it doesn't fit in a game that's in testing. It's still in testing. It's not a full game. I'm not committing 100 and some odd hours to,
sure.
Like that's insane. Like
they did change the XP rates, but
yeah,
it still takes a ton of time to get there. So I totally agree. And, they do have the outside of Hangor situation, Hangor, that's right. Or no, Madrun, the outside of Madrun, and then, being able to slowly make your way in. So there is some progression built in, but not a whole lot. And then the curve, because of what those spiders can do, like the skills that they have, people just don't pay attention to that stuff. They don't pay attention to what mobs are casting or what skills spiders are using. And they just want to go in and stab, and call it done. Well, that's not how this game works. You have to be aware of what's going on around you, Draq. And you have to go from, you have to make sure, you have to make sure you're paying attention to that stuff or you're just going to get hammered. So making it easier this is why I say it's a slippery slope. Are you going to take away all that stuff so we can just walk on through it? Because if that's what it takes, 3 groups has to go in there. Well, it's 3 groups that probably don't know what they're doing, honestly, and maybe need to take some time to learn what skills that they do. Like, I have to interrupt the mama spider from spawning 3 baby spiders that have ridiculous poison that stacks on me so that I can get, you have to use all your skills. It can't just be firebolt, firebolt, firebolt. You have to interrupt stuff too. That's the majority of the game.
Right. And bringing the ranger in maybe that's going to help with the situation. I mean, that's what I'm saying about pieces
being
fitting
able to
together.
look in
right?
with the ferret. Yep. Totally.
And the interrupts on one of the
gotta have them.
right? Like there's
If you
all
don't
these
if you
pieces.
use interrupts as a class and you don't have one on your bar all the
Mhm.
time, 24/7. Sorry, I said 247. I didn't mean it.
How
But
dare you?
yeah, I know. You have to have it on your bar. That's the most important skill. That honestly, Therek, that's your number one. Number
Yeah.
2 can be Beck and the Wolves. Number 1 needs to be interrupt the mob.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the Rangers
No,
have that good interrupt, right?
That's
3
what we're
chances to
saying,
hit the
yeah.
mob. Yeah, absolutely.
Because the enchanter has an interrupt, but it's like very limited, right? It's
on
like
a 2-minute cooldown.
Yeah, it's a
I've got
really
2, but
limited.
they're like on ridiculous cooldown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So moving on to kind of, he did say adjust. He didn't say redo. So I just want to put that in there.
I hope so.
So I think he's, and he mentioned tuning it. So I think he's just probably going to make it slightly easier, not make it a steamroll. They clearly want to make things hard. I've been watching people stream in Hangor and people complain about how hard it is. But as Dymlos said, they're not paying attention to what the mobs are doing. If you watch the mobs in Hangor, they will summon wolves or summon wolves. They'll summon
pigs.
Or the pigs. I'm sorry, not wolves, the pigs. And they'll summon other orcs. And you have to interrupt that crap or you will be overwhelmed. Like it's bad.
Or the bomb. Puts the bomb on the floor. If you don't interrupt the bomb, everyone's dead. It's a done deal.
And that's been around. That bomb has been around since back in the gray box days. That bomb killed a lot of people in our groups.
And will continue and should for forever.
Yeah.
I agree.
You have
I
to
agree.
pay attention to that stuff. It's absolutely vital.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's one of those situations you need the pieces to solve the puzzles. And, I don't think all the pieces are available yet.
So shifting that slightly, Rob in Joppa's chat said that when
Random Rob?
Nope. Rob, what's his title again?
Rob Crane, he's the program, like the producer.
He's the producer. Yes. The producer said in Joppa's chat, he said there will be more playability in Halnirs Cave than the entire current Pantheon build. That's what he said.
That's amazing.
And Joppa said that's right. So that's a pretty big statement.
Wonderful.
That's huge because there's a lot of playable content in the current build. So to say that Halnirs Cave itself is more than that is gargantuan.
If that's true, then I'm okay with this next 6 weeks just being for the Ranger and Summoner and testing that stuff out. Because we've got, a zone and 2/3 of a zone, 3/4 of a zone. So if we're talking that this is is 2 zones worth of content, then I guess I'm okay with it having to wait 6 weeks for more content.
Yeah, I don't know about
because classes and races are not content.
No, well, that's right, and that's what I was going to say is that the real hard line that they were taking with these chapters and seasons was that each one there would be new content, that being game area, landscape, world built out, and now we're not doing that anymore. Like, this next upcoming chapter or season is not going to have any new content in terms of landmass, right? So it's the classes.
Yep.
So it's a little disheartening to have them sort of walk that back already. And as much as I'm, I can be bribed, and the Ranger's a pretty good way of bribing me, if you're trying to get me to back off that. But I have to hold myself accountable because when Desmond and I have been, in previous shows recently, we've talked about this, how this was like a real barometer for where the game's at in its development and what the prospects are for the future. Can they keep this promise of new content every time? And we're already at the first time where that's not happening. So, and Joppa was asked about classes before. He said, nope, we're focused on content. And so,
Draq did go back and find that clip specifically where, and again, we have to take everything that he says on that stream with a grain of salt, right? Like he's trying to work, he's trying to answer questions. The things that are coming off the top of his head, as our good friend Savanya said, may not be the most reliable source and have not necessarily been approved to move into or even talk about or say or implement into the game. So like we just gotta take it with a grain of salt. And I'm fine with that. Like I get it. It's on the spot. He's trying to be the face and he's doing a great job at it. I think this whole streaming thing is great. But yeah, this is certainly disappointing, but we've been here before, Therek. Like this is not an uncommon thing for this game that we've been following for so long to do. So it's fine. The real test will be when we get out of stuff that they've already had, right? Like as soon as we get into Pumpkin 3,7, then maybe whenever they run out of material that they've already used in the past, that's when we'll see how disheartening it really is.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, everything we've seen so far in terms of land mass content has been in before in some form. So yeah, we have been here before. You're right. You're 100% right. And that's just, I think, I'm not as okay with being here again as you maybe you are, which is not a criticism at all. Just a, statement of like, it's a little, it's hitting me a little differently than maybe some other folks.
I mean, you do have a couple years of play on me, so I'm still pretty new in comparison to the two people in this chat room.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing.
You're not so old that you've forgotten who Basgrim is, but you may be so old that you don't know what the Voices of Terminus is.
No idea who Voices of Terminus is, other than you old guys telling stories about it. But I do believe that Basgrim is still out there. We don't know when he's coming back. Please stop asking us. He's making a damn board game. Let him make the damn board game. He's not coming back yet. Right.
That's code for everything now. Whenever you just get tired of following this nonsense, you're like, I'm going to go make a board game.
You have no idea.
I'm out of here.
As soon as you take your step back, that's how we're going to refer to you, as making a board game.
Dude, do it. Just put me on a billboard somewhere, making a board game somewhere.
Perfect.
All right, moving on to the next thing. We have a Steve Clover sighting. I had Nathan ask me the other day if Steve Clover was still working there. And I was like, he's still on the website, but we haven't heard anything about him for a long time. Apparently, he is the main driver of working on the Summoner Pet system. So I thought that was super cool that he's still around and he is working on the pet system.
Well, I'm glad
he does like all the touch-ups. Like people come up with the ideas and he's the one that actually behind the scenes builds the shit, right? Like he implements it. So he's the polisher of all that stuff that comes out of Joppa's mouth.
That's not a job. That's not a job I'd want.
Definitely not.
That's
but
what
he's
I've
good
always
at
felt.
it. So.
Yeah, well, that's how I've always felt about Kyle, right? Like he's like the wizard, the magic wizard that can make these dreams of Joppa become reality. So that's a big ask.
It's a tough job for sure.
Yeah, I hope he's getting a decent wage.
So moving on, Mark, who is Breaker of Games on Twitch. I always like to call out the VR devs when I learn who they are on Twitch. So he is Breaker of Games. He is the VR head QA guy. And also apparently Joppa is taking him under his wing to help design the game as well. So he is now being tasked with the wizard. And so the wizard, they're not happy with the wizard. They're not happy with the pies and all the stuff. They want the wizard to feel bursty. They want the Ice Comet EverQuest 1 experience where you land that spell and half the mob's health's gone. Right? That's kind of...
Draq instantly got a Pantheon boner.
I have to say that I'm all for this. Let it rain Ice Comets everywhere, except have them be fire. But I think this is fantastic. Give me all the burst DPS. I will kill steal everyone all the time. Let's do it.
So you just said, you know what? Go play Black Desert Online, cast that meteor spell that you cast that one time that you loved so much, and you're like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. Put that in the game. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. Mark has been on. He's been on streams before. They did the Goblin Cave stream a little while ago, year ago, whatever, with him and Savanya and some other folks, all VR people. He was in there. He was doing I think he was playing the monk, I want to say. Don't remember exactly, but he's been around a long time. So that's great to hear that, he's sort of moving into a larger role, perhaps it sounds like. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
congrats on your promotion or your voluntoldness.
Listen, remember, this is just Draq's interpretation of what Joppa was saying. I'm not in the behind.
Oh, this was a fever dream. This isn't even real.
No, He said he was helping design the wizard, so I don't take it too far.
I'm gonna need that clip.
I'm gonna get a message from Joppa after this is over, and he's gonna be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm
You need to turn off this rewind from here on out. No more of this.
When are you?
You can't be talking about 2 hours about my streaming. Get out.
He's like, when's the premiere? I'm going to stream exactly when you're premiering the rewind.
Oh no!
There go our numbers again.
There's the numbers.
Yeah.
All right. So, last thing before we get to the newsletter. Oh, we kind of touched on this before, but Joppa said that he was definitely leaning back into weapon and armor slotting, because he wanted to. The goal here is because he wants to put things in states. And that's so he wants to like put something in a daze state, which another class then takes advantage of, and then like maybe something like a third thing happens. So it's like this ever-changing thing of putting mobs into states so you can take advantage of what you need to do. And even to the point of where dungeons, like it's required, like you go into a dungeon, they don't want to do dungeon mobs have 3 times the HP, and that's what separates them as dungeon mobs. They want to put like, instead of HP, like make 3 times the armor. And then you have to put something in a state and then have another class do something once it's in that state. So then the armor is halved. And so then it's actually killable by your group. And that's kind of the way that they want to, or that's the goal that Joppa said that he wanted to make dungeon mobs versus regular mobs. How do you guys feel about specifically weapon swapping, putting things into states, and having dungeon mobs function that way?
I don't know. Dymlos, what do you think?
Hate it? Absolutely hate it. The only way I'm fine with weapon swapping is bows to melee weapons. End of story. What kind of items are you putting on your body that you need to swap off because you're in a day state? Wouldn't you know that beforehand? This kind of goes back on literally everything that we've ever said about Pantheon. Once you are engaged in the mob, that's it. And again, totally fine with switching back from bow because that's still part of your melee and combat skill set, right? Ranged and combat skill set. But the switching of actual gear, I just don't understand what gear you could have that could make the difference that you wouldn't have on already. Like if something puts you in a daze state and you got a bracer that says you don't have daze, well, that better be on before you engage the mob. You shouldn't, oh, he's casting daze, I'm going to put my daze bracer on. No, that's not how this works. That's not how you don armor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Off.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And it sounds okay, but it's like everything with Joppa Dreamings. They're interesting and they're interesting in the moment, and he has an idea and then he kind of goes with it for a while, and then it's like then he gets a different idea and he that becomes a priority. I don't know, man. Like it's so hard to take these things and analyze them in any real way because they switch around, they change their focus so much, and there's so much, and this was why Robert was brought in to be the production manager.
Bless him.
Because this was supposed to curb this sort of scatterbrain, scattershot approach to development where they get an idea and something goes a little way down the track, then they switch to something else and they come back to that idea to do it again. It's like, just no, like just stop that stuff.
Well,
so
and that being said,
is good in itself. I don't even know, but
yeah. But you need people to be able to come up with those ideas, right? Like you need people on the team that can just pitch out idea after idea. Maybe it's not good, but you can't just like change your mind depending on what you want to do for that week, right? Like we need to stick with the goal. If you get something, oh, this could be a cool thing that we add into this feature, great. But just changing things willy-nilly, and that's, the whole backbone of the game was, limited action set, you're stuck in your armor, all that stuff. What you go into the battle is what you got. Sorry, that's end of list. There was never any talk otherwise, and now we're talking about this again. This is
To be fair, Joppa's streams seem to me more like it's like him just saying what if, right? I think maybe the dev QAs and that type of stuff is more like, okay, this is what's happening, right? So I think you know, there can be a little
Take
bit
it with
of
a grain of salt.
there. Yeah, I would definitely take that with a grain of salt.
I used to be like, I'm not trying to be the negative one here. I know you guys
No,
are.
be
We're happy to do that,
give
and
it
we
to
want you
us.
to be negative here.
I'm just, having been doing this for so long that I think, to me, that feels like you're taking the community's time for granted. When you do stuff like this, to me, it says we've got all the time in the world, and we don't really care what you think about how long it's taking, because we're like, this is our schedule, not yours. And they've admittedly said, I mean, it's done when it's done, right? I just feel like enough of this goes on enough that you feel like, well, there's not really a priority to actually finish anything. And like they say that knowing we just talked about the Ranger and the thing coming in, but like, again, this is why you're not getting the content out that you said you were going to stick to. It's because you get an idea and then you start tinkering and doing something else. I do this. We all do this, in every aspect of our lives.
Great.
I'm distracted by things. We live in an age of distraction. So I just feel like we're seeing this is a very modern game development. It's full of distraction and
I want
side
everything
tracks.
though. I want it all.
I want it
We
all.
just don't have time for it. There's just no time.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
6 weeks is not that long to pump out new content. So crack that whip.
Yeah, man. Get it?
Joppa, I love you. I am the treasurer of the Joppa Fangirl Club still. But please just
Focus.
I love you, and I'm gonna watch every single one of your streams and bow to the pantheon that is Joppa, right? Like it's all good. Just focus. Love you. Focus. And anytime you want to come onto this show and be negative, like this is gonna be as come as you are as we can make it. Like if they do something that I don't like, I'm going to say it.
Yeah,
this is my platform now that I want to say what I want to say. So
I'm glad to hear that.
Good.
I'm glad to hear that.
This is where the direction it's going.
This is where the show needs to go. This is exactly where the show needs to go.
Oh boy, I'm not sure about Dymlos.
Sorry, Jop, I love you.
When Dymlos wants to say something, he's going to say it is a great step forward for me. But we'll see.
I've only semi-cussed one time in this whole hour and 10 minutes that we've been recording so far.
You need to
I think I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing pretty well.
Yes, embrace it, Draq.
Right.
That's the legacy I leave to the rewind.
Legacy.
Embrace it.
All right, let's move on. Newsletter. I felt like this newsletter.
Do people read still? It's kind of like our blog, Draq.
Like
Does anybody read that?
They just put it out there. No one reads it. I think
it's a great idea, and you need the information out there. But
given the level,
everyone is TLDR.
Given the level of information in this newsletter, I think that they realize that no one's reading these newsletters because there was not much in here. Like no new information. There was a couple of videos that they already put out. Like it was rough sauce. The only thing that I could really scrounge out to it is that not this season that starts this Saturday, but the next season is going to be huge. August 17th.
Pumpkin 2,
Pumpkin 2, 2. August 17th. I told Dymlos the wrong date earlier. I said it was the 10th, but it's the 17th for sure. This is going to be huge.
I mean, it's still TBD, right? Like
Still
they have
TBD,
said that they can throw an extra week in there if they need it. So we'll see.
But these are the things that could possibly drop in that season. Perception, huge. Possibly ogres, huge.
Better be there.
They've already put it off once.
Honestly, gnomes better be there too.
The ogres are
going to.
I don't think gnomes are going to be there. That's asking a lot.
The ogres are going to go back to the ogres are going to go back to their home planet if they're not in by the next.
They're going back. Yeah. Possibly all these summoned elementals, the custom summoned elementals that Bronson's been working on. If you've been following Bronson's streams, he's been doing an amazing job over there. Possibly all those are going to be in. Halnirs is going to be in, at least part of it, with possibly up to 3 boss mobs. And then there was just a whole bunch more stuff that was also dropping. Like the list of stuff that's dropping in that season is gargantuan. So
got to split that up. Got to split it up.
I would confidently say that that is going to be split up. There's just no way. All in one season, that's definitely not happening.
It's good to hear that they're all on the front burner though, instead of the back burner though.
Sure. I mean,
You better
we're
have
supposed
those
to
gnomes
get.
in there though.
So I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the pulse system is still not integrated, right? That's what they're talking
the
about.
The pulse system, I didn't put that in there, but that's basically perception, right?
Right. Yeah. Basically, the what gives you those pings when you come across, you enter a area of the world and you get that pop
right
up.
And as Joppa has been streaming, he's been running across in his build. He's been running across perception pings that were not there before. So that was kind of fun to see.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. Man, the newsletter used to be such a big deal, and it's just not a big deal anymore. You know, like we used to schedule everything around the newsletter. We would schedule the rewind for the week of the newsletter. This newsletter, like you say, is super thin, and just in general, everything's become so decentralized with how people are getting their news about Pantheon, from Joppa streams to the Discord and the various musings of the various devs and Bronson streaming. It's so decentralized. So, I mean, this is where you guys are going to take the rewind and run with it, because you've got a way harder job than Desert and I ever had to try and get this stuff into a digestible package.
They need us at this point, right?
They do need you.
They absolutely need us.
Yeah, I mean,
that's why I'm happy saying whatever I want to say.
Right? This is it, man. Like, for those that are listening, like when you listen to the rewind before, Desert and I, we tended to try and, just get a couple points in for discussion. We'd sort of expand out on that, but you guys are going to have it's going to be jam-packed full of new information because it's coming from all over the place. So yeah, you keep watching those 15-hour streams. I hope that you're caught up on your work and family life, because
I figured out a way to download them and put them in MP3 audio version. So I'm everywhere I drive, I'm listening to Joppa stream. So I've got
sultry sounds.
I've got this process on lockdown. I am there for Joppa. Nothing that he says is going to escape me.
Wow, you've become his stalker. You become a professional Joppa stalker.
I am a Joppa stalker.
Are you looking to fill out an application for the Joppa Fangirl Club?
I may have to.
I can get you in.
I may have to.
You know a guy? Yeah,
I do know a guy.
Yeah, good.
He might be the treasurer.
You need to get a Joppa bobblehead behind you, Dymlos, when you stream. You need to have like a little bobblehead Joppa right behind you.
I have desperately wanted a Joppa beanie that says Pantheon on the front so badly.
Everybody needs to donate to the Patreon so we can buy Dymlos a Joppa doppelhead. I will totally fund that thing with Patreon money. We'll make that happen.
Please
do it.
All right, last but not least. So Casually East, and we're going to cover him in the community spotlight. Casually East has been streaming a lot of Pantheon lately. He's a really good streamer. Watch him. But he decided to do a tier chart for DPS. I'm 100% pro anything in a tier list. So I'm going to put that on the...
You're lazy.
It's true. I'm going to put that on the stream. I just want to discuss it with you guys. Joppa said, quote, this tier list is, quote, pretty good. So we got the Wizard, the Rogue, and the Ranger at S tier. We got the Monk at A tier, the Enchanter at A tier, and the Mage at A tier. Then at B tier, we got the Druid
Summoner.
and the
Yeah, there's no Mage. Just
Summoner. I'm sorry, Summoner. Yes. We got the Druid and the Dire Lord at B tier. We got the Shaman, the Warrior, and the Paladin. At C tier, and the Cleric at D tier.
The lowly Cleric at the bottom of the DPS.
The Cleric's at the bottom. What do you guys think about this list? I, of course, love it because it's got Wizard at the top. What do you guys think?
It's pretty good. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense the way it's laid out. I'm happy to see the Ranger at the top of the charts. But when we would play on Thursdays, Desert and I, as the Monk, would always have a little bit of a mini contest going as to who would get the big hit of the evening, right? And because I could rogue, I had a bunch of tools, but he had some pretty strong tools as a Monk too. And the Monk is not in the S tier, which is interesting.
A little surprising.
Yeah, the monk is one below in A tier, right? So I thought that was interesting because he actually, I mean, and Desmond's a good player. He knows what he's doing. So it wasn't a given that I would get the big hit as the rogue. The monk sometimes took the prize that night. So yeah, interesting stuff.
Overall, it's okay. A couple little tweaky things, like the fact that the shaman is below the dire lord blows my mind. There's no way that should happen. The shaman should be able to put some deeps up, but they don't. They don't anymore. They're pretty pathetic now.
Even with the pet, I wonder if that includes the pet damage.
Well, the pet, it wasn't really fleshed out, right? Like they put the level 10 pet in, and this is kind of where we were going with the little druid bear pet, right? Like it doesn't move, so it stays the same level and it grays out eventually. So there's going to be another wolf summoning spell, but that's not in yet, right? Like it just, you have to get that level 20 wolf and then the level 30 wolf, and then it keeps up. But as of right now, it's doing nothing, and they nerfed their dots so badly. They just don't do anything. I mean, and the fact that they're in the C tier and the cleric that really is by far the best healer is in the D, and they are not even close to the ability of healing that the cleric has. Like they just are in this real bad spot where they're not good at either at all.
Yeah. No, that's cool. It'll be interesting to see how this all sort of fleshes out at the end of the day.
I would just
for sure.
I would just like to throw in a couple of comments. One, I think that if you're gonna have DPS classes, that the DPS classes, if you're gonna call it a DPS class, it should be S tier. Like maybe there's better or worse, but the
or A, depending on your utility wizard.
Right. But oh jeez.
Port me.
No.
Port me, Draq.
Don't even say that.
Where's my mana stone, Draq?
Don't put that evil on me. Joppa has said repeatedly that the summoner is very versatile and can bring a lot of different things to the group. Obviously, they can cover tanking and healing, they've got all kinds of stuff. So, but there's still a DPS class. Same way with the monk. Like it can kind of off tank for situations, but it's still a DPS class. So I think
actually a pretty good tank for the most part.
Right. But I think the eventual design of it is for it to be more off tankish.
Without a doubt.
And honestly, the rogue has so much, it can spec so much into crowd control right now that I think the ranger should do more damage than the rogue. Like I think it should go wizard, ranger, rogue, and then after that the other two, monk and summoner. So I hope that they do not, and this is my fear, I hope they do not go crazy with enchanter charm and DPS that it does. I think that needs to be very tame, because
encounter only, Joppa. Encounter only.
It cannot be EverQuest 1 charm. And he said that on stream, that it can't be Enchanter 1 charm where you're the enchanter, you do the most DPS, and you mez everything, and give everybody mana. Like, that's just ridiculous. So we have skip two things. Hold on. So number one, we have a Progeny sighting.
What? Progeny?
Yes. So on stream, someone asked Joppa if the race class matrix was set in stone.
Oh my lord.
And Joppa said,
oh, God.
Well, probably, maybe, for now. But also later we're looking at adding Progeny in the game.
Unbelievable. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It's exactly what I'm talking about. That drives me bananas. It's just whatever. That's so stupid. They swore off Progeny so long ago and said that we're not into, that's not on the table, probably not happening. He just leaves the door open for it randomly. Sure, maybe.
I guess why not leave it open? Like never shut anything. Don't burn any bridges, right? Like
it just doesn't inspire confidence, man. That kind of thing does not inspire any confidence. Yuck.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't even reading the question. I just heard Progeny and I clammed up.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Thank you, Ben Dean.
That should have been his answer. That's what he should have said.
Right.
Should have played that.
Yes. Also a last minute ad. This is today is Tuesday, the day we're recording, but this just broke. Champions are now going to get access to the first week of every season / in addition to the last 2 weeks that they already have.
I did see that.
What do you think about that?
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. Seems okay for champions. I don't really care.
Great for champions. Super great for champions. But, you know, those of us VIPs, and again, we're on a slippery slope, right? Like, where do you draw the line to that VIP? Like, how do you get people to jump in? But I thought 4 weeks was a good line. You know, we get an extra month that the champions don't. And if they really, I mean, so many people made that jump from champion to VIP when it first came out because they played it for 5 minutes, aka their 2 weeks, loved it as they should. It's a fun game, love the game, and wanted to become VIPs as they should. People that have a great time in games are willing to spend $1,000 or $750. Do the Black Rose, that's fine. But now, honestly, I'm okay with it if they did it this one time for summoners and rangers because people want to play those classes, right? Like that's a big thing. But if this is for sure permanent, which is what the headline sounds like, the post that was made on the official Pantheon sounds like champions get 3 weeks now. So now they, for a third of the price that the VIPs paid or Black Rose pay, they now get half the time that we get. Is a little tough to swallow. But that's what we do as VIPs, right? Like we swallow the tough pills. We have for 10 years. So here's just another pill.
That's exactly right. Yeah, no, exactly. You know, they're bringing more people in. It's potentially going to make them some money to develop the game. You're always running that risk of where's the line that VIPs are going to, you know, raise their hand and say, I'm not sure I'm okay with this, but you know, I don't think
make 6 different tiers for 6 different weeks. That's fine. But don't give them something they've already paid for. You're now giving the milk away for, or what's that? You're giving the milk away for free
without buying
the cow, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that in a nutshell. You know, don't, if they want it, if they're begging for it, make them pay for it. Make them pay an extra $50, $75. I don't care. I've already paid my money. This is my time. I get 6 weeks, not anybody else.
Yeah. That's the risk you run. It's how close can we get to that line and not piss off the VIP, the people who paid more money. So yeah.
But again, we're the ones that are here voluntarily. You know, we don't. They can pump us full of 247 arrows, and we're still going to be here. So
I don't know about that. Yeah.
I know. But we're all coming back, right? Like if they're going to double the content for Halnirs, well, I'm absolutely going to get right in and start testing that. You know, that's just what we do as VIPs. We swallow the tough pills. So great. VR. I can't wait to swallow another one of your pills, and here we are.
I took a 247 arrow in the knee, and I've never.
Yeah. All right, guys, we made it all the way through.
We did it.
Pantheon.
Yeah, we made it through.
News. We did it. Did we level up?
I don't know.
I think we're level 155 now.
Don't you have that on the soundboard? I'm surprised.
I don't. No.
All right, MMO news. Oh, it's been a big week, and in our favorite game of all time, the game that brought Draq and I together way back in 1999, EverQuest. They dropped Fippy Fest today, or not today, but they had it this weekend, and streamed 6 hours of it. I can't wait to sit through all 6 hours of that. It's going to be just nostalgia and wonderful. But they did drop a lot of beans. The biggest bean, of course, that we've been waiting for, at least at Static Group Live, is when is that Origin server, as normal people call it, Anashti Sewell. Sorry, I had to go find the name because I can't remember.
Normal people call it that? Is that what normal people call it?
Yeah. Not Origins. It's Anashti
Sewell. Gotcha.
Sewell. Evidently, that's a god. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So yeah, we're all waiting on bated breath for this Origin server, and this has this news that they dropped that it is literally coming out as of this recording in 2 days, has really kind of put us on our back on our haunches. Like we didn't expect it to be out this early. And you know, for me, I feel like they're doing this on purpose. Like I truly believe that this is a move that Darkpaw, their servers are not able to handle the amount of bandwidth the people that want to play EQ2 from 2006, and they are not, that's what, so people can't plan to log in. People aren't going to be able to take time off in 2 days and binge a whole week, so that they're going to be able to taper people in, and maybe the evenings will be a little bit of a line, but that initial noon rush on Wednesday will not be there. So there won't be any, headaches or having to reset of the server, or, see where it's at and see how much it can handle before it shuts down.
All right, Dymlos, I'm jumping in. I can't even handle it any longer. Yeah. I'm so pissed. I'm so mad. Yeah. This is the most stupid, idiotic, dumb thing that Darkpaw has ever done, and they have done some stupid, dumb, and idiotic things. So Dymlos didn't actually mention the date, but they announced it over the weekend, and they are dropping it on Wednesday, the 19th. At 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's like, what, 4 days notice of when their server is going to drop? That is stupid. I cannot believe that they did not give us any time to plan for this thing. Like, these are events. Your server launch is an event that everyone wants to be a part of, and there is no getting that back. Like, playing the week after feels bad to me. Like, I want to be there day one. I want to be there the second that thing launches, and I want to play till my eyes bleed. And there is a section of the MMO community that is like me. They want to be in on the rush. They love it. Like, I don't care about server queues. I don't care about waiting hours to get in. I want to be there at the start. That's part of the fun for me. It's an event. It's a great time for me. And the fact that you gave me 4 days notice to plan for this thing, like, we are not 20 years old anymore. We are 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, man. Like, that's the age group that is now playing EverQuest. And we have lives, jobs, families, everything, right? We're in the middle of living complicated lives. And you gave us 4 days to, like, take off work and, like, plan for this thing. It is, I'm just so pissed. It makes me so pissed that I almost don't want to play it. Like, it's that level of me being pissed at them. Because you have ruined the most fun time of any server, which is the first 3 to 4 days, because I cannot, with 4 days notice, take off work and play.
And there are a lot of people like us. It's not the only ones that take time off to play these servers. I mean, look at Tormax and Teak, specifically Teak, and definitely not Tormax because no one plays on that server. But it's a great time. That's when the old school EQ people come out of their basements every year for 3 months until Classic is over or Kunark is over, maybe Velius if we're lucky, and then they hide back in their basements for another year. So yeah, we need those people. We want those experiences. They really screwed the pooch on this. But I'm telling you, Draq, this is on purpose. This is their master plan, because there's only 2 devs working on EQ2 at most, and one of them is working on TLEs and live, and the other one's just doing this Origin server by himself or herself, whoever it is. So, it is what it is on that. But yeah, Darkpaw, I shake my finger at you.
I think saying the phrase Darkpaw has a master plan is, I can't even believe you said that.
I know.
I'm a no on that. Hold on, here we go.
That's a no from me, dog.
That's a no for me, dog.
Oh wow, we got Vendini clip now. I love it.
That's it. That's one of his 2 famous sayings now. We've kind of forced him to have catchphrases, and that's one of them.
That's so good. I love it.
Derek, you got any opinions on that?
No, not really. I'm not as much into those as you guys are. EQ2 was great when we played it for the 201 and the 101. It was lots of fun, and I know some folks were excited for this semi old school experience with EverQuest 2, and I've seen some commentary around that it hasn't really, it's not something that seems to be living up to expectations. So I don't have any personal experience, so I can't say, but I'm sorry to hear that you guys are getting screwed over by that. That sucks.
It's all right. I unlike Draq, hate the server queue. Like when we did that one 3 years ago now, the very first No Sleep, and 3 of us got in right away and 3 of us didn't, and all 6 of us had to sit there waiting for 3 hours for us to get in. Those login servers suck. The hardware behind them is miserable and it shuts down. That's why it takes so long, is people get stuck in there and then they got to reboot it. Like they have to wait for the people to finish their making of their character, and then it's got to start all over again. And then it lets another 50 people in and they have to make their characters, and then they have to redo it again. It's super unbelievable how old technology they're using. Why? Let's get something going here. We know the problem. Put another server on it. Fix it. I don't care. I'm not a tech guy. I don't know how any of that stuff works. So please don't put in the comments that I have no idea what I'm talking about, because I don't. But just fix that. That's the worst part. So I'm glad we're missing it, Draq. I hate it. I'm sorry that you are missing out on your favorite part of sitting at your computer doing nothing for 3 hours.
Smash that like button.
Yeah, smash that like button.
God.
Anyway, I'm sorry to cut you off, Draq, but we got to keep going because I got to go to raid here in 15 minutes. So the other big things with 50 Fest, they talked about the new expansions. That's of course a big thing. With EverQuest, they are doing something brand new, the Outer Brood. This is all kind of new. It sounds like new lore. Now, they didn't go too deep into it from what I understand, but it does sound like there's going to be some new not character models. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. New NPC models. There's going to be a huge dragon. And it sounds like the graphics are up there with EQ2 level quality, which is shocking to say out of an EQ1 server, right? So very exciting there. Maybe they said the largest dragon they've ever had. So, and those are some big dragons out there. I've slain many of them, and they are all large. So if this is about to be the biggest dragon, that's pretty exciting.
I was also going to mention that Mr. C made a great video. The Betrayal quest in EverQuest 2 is the most amazing quest across. I would say it's my number one quest in any MMO ever. So if you haven't done the Betrayal quest before, you need to go do it. It's amazing. Mr. C made a guide. It's in the SGL Discord. You need to go check it out or subscribe to his channel.
Which leads into the other announcement. They obviously talked about EverQuest 2's new expansion. So this one, EverQuest 2 is, I know that we didn't play for very long, and I'm still playing it now on Barsoon, but it's a beautiful homage to EverQuest 1, and they are putting us back into Velius. They've already done a kind of a rehash of Velius and what that looks like in the world of EQ2, but now we're going to see some of the other parts that weren't in that initial launch of the Velius launch that they did, and it'll be like Western Wastes and it'll be all completely different. You know, what the explosion did to that part of the world. So very excited to see what those old zones from EverQuest will look like with this new, as I like to say, retelling of the world of Norath.
The weekly calendar. Hey, this is Draq. I just wanted to say a couple of things about our weekly calendar. Obviously, it's in flux. We got a lot of things changing, but also there's a lot of new stuff that's coming up. So it's super exciting. On Mondays, you got the After Dark. Next Monday, which will be 3 days from now, we are going to be having Bronson on the After Dark. So you don't want to miss that. If you can stay up late, catch it. If not, catch the VOD the next day. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to have level 1 summoners. We're going to be running around everywhere being crazy. It's going to be great. Tuesday, there's a show in the works, probably going to be like mid-August-ish or so, but it's going to be super fun. I can't wait to introduce it. Wednesday, we're taking off. Thursday, we got Chaos Theory. That is Zelik and his crew of WoW Ascension people. WoW Ascension sounds like a ton of fun. I just personally don't have time for it, but I'm definitely going to tune in to see what they're up to over there. Friday, we got another stream. So another completely different stream group that's going to go Friday. That should be premiering, I'm hoping, in the next 2-3 weeks that we're going to be able to put that together. Saturdays, that's going to be devoted to the Rewind. And then, of course, Sundays will be Quest and Coffee. Therek's going to finish that out until they're done with Baldur's Gate. And then I don't know what's going to happen with Sunday yet, but we'll see. Also, I wanted to make sure to mention that this upcoming weekend, when you listen to it, we're going to be doing some Monsters of Memory streaming on Friday and Saturday. So make sure to check out the Twitch channel for that. And everybody have a fantastic week.
The Pantheon community is full of cool projects, new people, and things that are just worth sharing. What's this over here? Look at that. So let's see what we can find in this week's Community Spotlight.
All right. We're going to keep the community spotlight short this week because we've just had such a big episode and just so much Pantheon news that we needed to cover. So next week it'll be a bigger community spotlight and we'll probably do some more with it. But I did want to mention a few things. Number one, if you haven't caught Joppa streaming, make sure you do that. The link will be down below. Also, Bronson is streaming. He's been working on the elementals that are going to launch, making the custom art and the custom, not animations, but character models. So it's super interesting. Go check him out. And last but not least, I wanted to mention Casually East because we did steal his little tier chart, and he's also a great streamer. So go check him out. Last but not least, before I go, I just wanted to mention that I would love to promote your stream. The way that I would love to do that, if, as you notice, during the rewind, there's a bunch of Pantheon background footage going. So if you want to give me a 5-minute clip or like even a 7 to 8 minute clip of you playing Pantheon on your stream, I will put it in the background footage of the rewind, and I will put a little link at the top of your stream channel up there so the rewind can promote your channel. Just reach out to me on Discord if that's something that interests you. We'll see you next week for Community Spotlights.
All right, top 5. This is something that we've been doing on our blog for a while. We did about 20 blogs, which is our warm-up for what we're doing here. So we created top 5 lists. Draq is really, really poor at making top 5 lists, which is just hilarious. So we're going to see what he came up with this, but we are going to list our top 5 DPS classes in Pantheon. Go, Draq.
I'm doing 5 to 1.
5 to 1.
All right.
Therek, be thinking of yours.
Number 5, the Summoner. It's listed as a DPS class. It has to make the list. It is the most versatile DPS class. It has the most utility of any DPS class, but it is still DPS. It is still a DPS class, so it has to make the top 5. Number 4, Monk. Joppa has said that Monk will be able to do the most DPS by using one skill that you have to get into the chi, and then it's got a long cooldown. But overall, it's not going to do the most DPS, and I've got it at 4th. Number 3, I'm going to put Rogue here. Only because, to me, it seems like Rogues have a ton of utility, just tons and tons of stuff they can do with utility. And so I think they're slightly more utility, which means they have to be slightly less DPS. So that means the Ranger, even though I'm not a huge fan of Rangers in general, that means the Ranger's number 2. They don't quite have as much utility. It doesn't seem like maybe their utility is quite as good as the Rogues. And it seems like they're maybe a little bit more DPS focused than Rangers, which is not how I personally do my MMO takes, but that kind of seems how, in my mind, how it's shaping up in the Pantheon world. Which, of course, leaves way for the granddaddy DPS of them all, the Wizard, which should be at the top of every... which should be at the top of every DPS list in every MMORPG ever. They are the glass cannon, very little utility, lots of DPS, lots of bursts. Perfect list, done.
I do appreciate that list, Draq. And the reason why I like to make fun of Draq's list, and Therek, we made a joke earlier before we started recording about the number 2 snack is water. Draq, we made our top 5 snacks while gaming, and his number 2 was water. So first, I'm not even a snack; it's a drink.
That's not even a snack. What are you talking about?
Apparently, I'm never living that down.
Never living that down. So this list, Draq, though, I'm pretty proud. You've grown up in 20 blog posts that we've made, and this is an actually pretty decent list. And so for number 5, I do agree with you. Summoner's there, a lot of utility, should not be number 1, should not be certainly number 2 or 3, honestly. But 5 is a good spot for Summoner. I think with as much as they can do, with whatever pet they choose, they should be able to swing from super good DPS to whatever the group needs. They're the fill-in, right? Like whatever the group needs left, the Summoner can fill in. That's great. Number 4, sorry, Drag, it's Wizard. Like as of right now, And maybe it shouldn't be this way. Yeah, I get it. Maybe it should not be this way, but as of right now in the testing, the magic is just unable to hold up to the amount of DPS that melee can do. So unfortunately, I got to put Wizard as 4. I would like to see them at number 2-ish, maybe 1. That'd be great. But you get your Mana Stone, you get your teleports. You got a lot of utility to yourself too. So it's tough to say that you're number 1. So as of right now, I'd like to see. I'm penciling in Ranger as number 3 because it's going to need a lot of work. It sounds cool. It could be a lot of DPS. Whatever. We haven't seen it, so hopefully it chisels in there. But they're melee, so they're going to be able to continuously DPS, not wait for mana. It's going to be. It's probably going to out DPS the Wizard right now. So then number 2. Rogue, just like Draq said, it's got a lot of utility to it, but they still, as of now, put out a boatload of damage. And if your Rogue is not putting out a boatload of damage, even with throwing caltrops and setting traps, then you're not playing the Rogue right. And then last, closest to my heart, the Monk. They are still number 1 DPS. They swing fists like crazy. You give them some weapons that add damage, and they are out DPSing anyone in Pantheon right now. So Monk number 1.
You know what? I'm going to cheat here, and I'm going to steal your list, Dymlos, because I was thinking about it, and as you were saying it, I'm like, yep. I'm like, that's exactly what all the things you had said. It was exactly how I was thinking, and like I talked about earlier when we
great minds think alike.
Yeah, that's right. And Desmond would play the Monk, and it was tight. Like the Monk puts out a lot of damage, and especially when you get those Chi gates built up and everything's sort of flowing, it really flows and does well. And the Rogue can keep up, but I don't think they're above the Monk for output on DPS right now.
Not yet.
So, yeah, and the Ranger
should be similar, but not yet.
I would give the Ranger number 1, but like you said, they're not in the game yet. You have to wait and see what it ends up being and how it sort of plays. So yeah, I would just echo your list. I think you nailed it.
But it's sad that we still put it over Wizard because Wizard.
Yeah, but Wizards, again, they fluctuated over time, right? There was a time when Wizard probably was number 1. They've lost their throne. Sure. They've lost their throne.
Where's
They'll
the
be
DPS meter?
Yeah. I feel like they just need to really tweak it. It will be back. Honestly, they should all be number 1, right? Like they should all be able to be the top DPS, depending on how they're spec'd, depending on what they've got on their limited action bar. It matters. All that matters. But they should all have the potential to be number 1. There shouldn't be any. Oh, this one's far superior. You should always play a Monk to a Rogue because if you want to put out more DPS, it shouldn't be that way. You should be able to equally put out as much DPS. A Wizard should be able to put out as much as a Monk, as a Ranger. All those S and A class tiers should be the same.
Right.
All right. Well, that's our top 5 list. We know which one was right and which one was wrong. You guys couldn't even differentiate.
Yes, we do.
You're just like ganging up on me. Whatever. So that's enough of that.
Well, everyone, it's Therek, and I wanted to record a sort of a goodbye for me for the rewind, separate from the rest of the episode. And I'm doing this without any real script, or I'm just going to try and speak from the heart here because I figure that's the way it'll be the most genuine as it can be, and it will get across what I really want to say without too much editorializing of my thoughts. So yeah, I really want to thank everyone for joining me along the journey of becoming a podcaster, making a podcast. It was something that I still remember very clearly when the idea was being formulated and we were setting it up and trying to get everything together to start this podcast 155 episodes ago. And it has been such a fun journey. It's really been the biggest part, I think, of my investment in Pantheon as a fan and my investment in the community that has made it so successful. And those, of course, success is a metric that's subjective to whatever, however you're looking at it. But in my mind, the Rewind exceeded any expectations I ever had for the number of listeners we would get, the people coming to the premieres. I never really thought it would be that successful. I hoped, but I didn't really think that as a first-time podcast creator and content creator, really, that would have the impact that it's had, and the community that has been built up around it would actually be as big as it is. So I am so incredibly thankful for everybody. There's a lot of things I want to mention too. Firstly, the fan art that got submitted for the rewind has always been something that really, it was the first thing we did that really showcased the community. And whether it was 3D generated artwork, or, painted, or all the different ways people express their creativity through our fan art. Just thank you, everybody, whoever submitted anything along those lines or even talked about doing so. A special thank you to Oaken Air for the introduction that we had for the rewind. That was something that was done spontaneously on their part to support the show, and became sort of one of the most identifiable pieces of the show, and something I really liked a lot. I remember when they submitted it, I was just blown away, and I still am by it. So thank you to Oaken Air for that as well. The other, I'll go through some highlights of the episodes that I just stand out in my mind. Episode 100, where we had the listener voicemail messages, was something that I remember coordinating that and listening to them as they were coming in, and just feeling the feeling that people were spending time doing this was amazing to me. And I listen to that episode once in a while just because I want to hear the messages again, because they were just amazing. And so thank you, everyone, for doing that. I look at the interviews we did, whether it was with JN or with Kevin, oh my gosh, blanking on his name, the WoW designer that we interviewed, was a big deal. And we've done a lot of fun things over the years that we've been doing this, which is crazy to think that it's been years. But I couldn't have done this without all the folks in the community, as well, of course, with my co-host Desrin, who stepped in when Minus stepped back, and the show just got better and better. Just an amazing co-host and an amazing person, and so much, just it's hard to find people that you have a fun dynamic with and a good vibe, and we had that, and Minus and I had that as well, and we've been very lucky with the co-hosts and the hosts of the show having a good rapport and being able to make a fun show. And I am very thankful to Draq and Dymlos for being able to pass the torch to the next set of hosts that are going to bring the rewind even further along, make it better, have the fun times and the creative things that make the rewind what it is. And I want to really leave on a high note. I mean, I could easily sit here and lament the reasons that I'm stepping back, and just I don't want to do that. I will say that my passion has gone down for the following Pantheon as closely, but that's not to say that that's anything to do with anybody other than myself. I think the game's in a good place. I think that the community is still right to be invested in giving Pantheon your attention. For me personally, I needed to focus on some other things, and I hope that everybody understands that this is not a condemnation of VR or Pantheon by my not being involved in this anymore. It's just a matter of my own, it's been a long time. It's been several years we've been doing this, and I need to turn the page, and I need to focus on some other things. And I think that's healthy. So again, thank you everybody for all your support over the years. It's been a great time. I am still around if you ever want to play some games, hang out, chat, whatever. Stick around and shoot me a DM or say hi in Discord or whatever. And let's stay connected. So again, thanks everyone, and onward. I don't even know how to end this. I was going to do a job. Onward and upward. No. Well, how about we say, I don't even know. Let the lore take you where it may. Okay. Thanks everyone. Take care.
Wow, Dymlos, that was heavy, and it appears that Therek has put a lot of responsibility, and also has never really watched the After Dark, because there's a lot of expectations here.
And we are not going to be able to follow through with any of that. So it's okay. We'll do our best. It's certainly, I know Therek talked about making it better. I don't know about better. Therek and Desrin were pretty good together, and Therek and Minus were pretty good together too. Like those were great shows for a very long time. This is going to be a little different. We're still going to do the Pantheon thing, but we're going to put our own spin on it. Hopefully the community still likes it. We'll see, and put in the comments below how terrible you think we are. We're happy to hear those comments, and I will fire off comments back at you that will not be very nice. That might get me kicked off the show, but that's fine. But thank you, Therek. I really appreciate you letting us take over your brainchild. We will do as much respect as we can to it. On all seriousness, Draq and I do take this very seriously. We've massively changed our weeks around to be able to do this, to fit it in our time, because it's also very important to us. So we want to do you justice. We want to do Minus and Desrin justice, and make sure that this is still a great show for a great community. And so we will do our best.
Yeah. And this is I can't really say the flagship station, because now the After Dark is the flagship station. But this is the community event for Static Group Live every week that brings us all together. And that's how we really view the Rewind. So we're so excited that you made it all the way to the end of this super long Rewind. We just had a lot to cover this week. We're going to try to keep it shorter. I know that everyone says they're going to try to keep their podcast shorter, but we're really going to effort to trim it down some next week, and keep it a little bit more compact. But we made it, Dymlos. We have completed one podcast.
Woo! 155 down. Oh wait, it's still one. It's still one. I thought this episode lasted so long it felt like 155 episodes.